A Russian warship in the English Channel fired warning shots several hundred yards in front of UK-flagged yacht that appeared to be sailing on a collision course with it on Tuesday, according to Russia's defence ministry. The yacht did not report any injuries or damage and is continuing its journey. An agreement between the US and Iran has all but ended the war, with both sides claiming victory despite the huge cost. Iran's relationship with its Gulf neighbours, which it attacked during the war, has been damaged. A United States federal judge has upheld the conviction of Hannah Dugan, a former Wisconsin judge who was convicted of helping a man evade federal immigration agents who came to her courtroom. US District Judge Lynn Adelman had previously postponed Dugan's sentencing to consider efforts to overturn her conviction, but declined to do so in a decision on Tuesday.
The current Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, could become deadlier than the worst outbreak on record, which killed more than 11,000 people, says the head of Africa's Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC. The number of confirmed cases in the country, including increased to 896 deaths. Government data showed on 6 deaths, data showed on Tuesday.
More than 400 cats destined for slaughter have been rescued in Vietnam after authorities dismantled an alleged feline theft ring. An animal welfare group has said 9 people have been arrested in connection with what police described as a criminal group specialising in stealing and collecting cats, according to the official newspaper of Ho Chi Minh City Police.
Republican Governor of Ohio Mike DeWine has announced that he now opposes the death penalty, calling for an end to the punishment he once helped revive in his state. During a news conference on Tuesday, DeWine explained that, as a young prosecutor and elected official, he once believed that capital punishment could serve as a deterrent to crime. But that argument, he said, no longer stands up to scrutiny. A security researcher said she was able to access several internal FIFA platforms due to a simple security flaw, which allowed her to watch and have full control of the TV stream of every World Cup game. The researcher, who goes by Bob the Hacker, said she simply registered as a player agent on FIFA's official agent registration platform. Then, thanks to having that account and a flaw in FIFA's back-end API, which didn't check if a user actually had the proper authorization, she was able to access several internal FIFA platforms.
Qualcomm CEO Cristiano Amon said Tuesday that the company is working on over 40 different AI wearable devices, including jewelry, earbuds with cameras, pins and watches, a sign of how aggressively the chipmaker is betting that the next major computing platform won't be a phone at all. To power that vision, Qualcomm is announcing 2 new offerings. A platform called Snapdragon Reality Elite for mixed reality glasses, designed to run more powerful on-device AI, and the scalable turnkey AI-ready toolkit, START, a combination of hardware modules and a software stack for AI devices, starting with smart glasses.
Game over for fans of discontinued video games after the European Union, EU, admitted defeat on Tuesday and said it cannot stop publishers from making them unplayable. But the EU unlocked one potential cheat code by promising voluntary guidelines to manage video games' end of life. Microsoft is changing how it charges for its software for the first time in 2 decades, moving to bill customers with a pay-as-you-go model each time they use its new AI agent. The change, prompted by the soaring cost of artificial intelligence, came Tuesday as the company launched Copilot Cowork, an AI agent that can independently carry out office tasks like drafting documents, building spreadsheets and sending emails.
Who Portugal versus DR Congo, what FIFA World Cup 2026 Group K match where Houston Stadium, Houston, Texas, United States, when Wednesday 12 p.m, 17 GMT. How to follow, keep up with all updates on Al Jazeera Sport. Portugal will seek to put 60 years of World Cup hurt behind them when their 2026 clash with the Democratic Republic of Congo in Houston. With the Democratic Republic of Congo in Houston.
Israel has seized planning and construction powers at the Ibrahimi Mosque in the occupied West Bank from Palestinian authorities, scrapping parts of an agreement in place since the 1990s. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich said on Tuesday, under the 1997 Hebron Agreement, Palestinians controlled planning and construction in the entire city of Hebron, including the Jewish tomb of the patriarchs and the adjoining Ibrahimi Mosque.
Robinhood will reduce its headcount by 10%, accounting for 290 employees. Amid ambitions to streamline operations, the trading platform announced the cuts on Tuesday as it restructures in an effort to deploy resources across the company. In addition to the cuts, the company, which has a headcount of about 2,900 employees, will close a handful of open job listings. Multiple Israeli strikes have killed at least 4 people in southern Lebanon's Nabatea governorate, according to Lebanon's national news agency, NNA, despite a ceasefire and a recent understanding between the United States and Iran to end the war on all fronts. Tuesday's killing took place as separate drone attacks targeted 2 vehicles in Mayfair Down. A third vehicle was also targeted in the village of Shukin, the agency said. Rivian is laying off hundreds of workers just 1 week after it began deliveries of its hotly anticipated R2 SUV. The company has confirmed to TechCrunch. The company said the layoffs will affect less than 2% of its overall workforce, and that it was done to boost efficiency. It's at least the 4th round of cuts Rivian has made since the beginning of 2024. The Wall Street Journal first reported the new round of cuts on Tuesday. Mobileye has pitched itself as an autonomous vehicle technology supplier. Now it wants the operator label too. The Intel subsidiary and publicly traded company said Tuesday it plans to launch a robotaxis in a US city in 2027, marking an expansion beyond its supplier strategy. Mobileye didn't name the US city. However, the Israeli-based company said it will have an initial fleet of 100 autonomous 27, which will be phased in throughout 2027.
Google on Tuesday released the final version of its Android 17 operating system, as well as its counterpart for smartwatches, Wear OS 7. The latest release, which arrives first on its own Pixel devices, is also accompanied by a Pixel drop, bringing new features that include support for the latest AI models, like the music generation model Lyria 3, the multimodal Gemini Omni, and speech-to-translation tools for the Pixel 10a with Audio LM. The latest feature release underscores Google's strategy of using its Android and Pixel devices to showcase its latest AI technology. While its rival Apple is focused on catching up in AI with September's public launch of AI upgrades to Siri and iOS 27, Google's Android 17 is focused on its newest AI models, Gemini's role in creation, communication, and other device experiences.
Punjab Finance Minister Mian Mujtaba Shujar Rehman on Tuesday presented the provincial budget for fiscal year 2026 to 27, proposing an allocation of $750.1 billion for the education sector. The budget was unveiled in the Punjab Assembly after receiving approval from the provincial cabinet. Chief Minister Mariam Nawaz Sharif, provincial ministers and members of the provincial assembly attended the session.
Finance Minister Mohammad Aurangzeb on Tuesday termed the launch of the Tax Asan scheme for traders a paradigm shift, adding that the government had to start somewhere in its efforts to widen the tax net. In an interview on Geo News programme Capital Talk, Aurangzeb said, "We kept the tax rate at 1 PC for traders because we have to start somewhere. However, it is part of a broader framework to expand the tax net, and we are moving in the right direction."
Washington. US President Donald Trump on Tuesday signaled his willingness to submit the recently negotiated Iran agreement to Congress for review, as lawmakers from both Republican and Democratic lawmakers demanded access to a deal whose full terms remain closely guarded. Speaking during a meeting with United Arab Emirates, UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in France, Trump suggested he had no objection to congressional scrutiny of the accord, which was announced over the weekend and is expected to formally be signed in Geneva on Friday by Vice President J.D. Vance. On Monday, hours after the announcement of a ceasefire agreement between the US and Iran, families that had been displaced because of the war began to return to communities in southern Lebanon, despite warnings from the authorities that it was not safe yet. In a video widely shared online, some residents arrived by car in a village to find an Israeli armored vehicle blocking a street.
Iran's leadership is trying to present its emerging memorandum of understanding, MOU, with the US not as a retreat, but as the result of resistance and victory. That is not an easy argument to make. The country has just gone through a damaging war, the economy is under severe pressure, and parts of the Islamic Republic's own support base have spent months denouncing any compromise with Washington.
Venezuela's interim president has signed an agreement with US energy giant General Electric to rebuild the country's electricity grid. Delcy Rodriguez, who was sworn in shortly after US forces seized Venezuela's leader, Nicolás Maduro, in January, announced the move at a televised event at the presidential palace on Monday.
A Russian warship fired warning shots near a UK-registered yacht in the English Channel on Tuesday morning. The incident, which happened between the Isle of Wight and Normandy, involved a Russian frigate, the Admiral Grigorovich.
The British military is investigating a report that a Russian warship fired warning shots at a yacht in the English Channel. The Defence Ministry said, "We are investigating reports of an incident in the Channel on Tuesday."
US President Donald Trump suggested on Tuesday that Israel allow Syria to deal with Hezbollah, claiming Damascus would do a better job. The proposal, which Trump has now raised twice this month, touches on some of Lebanon's deepest anxieties. Syria's long history of interference in its affairs and the jihadist past of the country's new rulers, it is unclear exactly what Trump is suggesting: deploying Syrian troops to southern Lebanon or having Syrian forces forcibly cut off weapons supply routes. Either option would stoke fear inside Lebanon. The head of Africa's Centres for Disease Control and Prevention warned on Tuesday that the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, could be the worst ever, saying that currently tens of thousands of contacts of those ill with the disease had not been traced. If we don't stop the outbreak very soon, it will be worse than what we had in West Africa and eastern DRC. Africa CDC Director General Jean Kaseya told a virtual meeting of African heads of state in Burundi. The United States and Iran are set to sign an initial agreement in Geneva on Friday to end the US-Israel war on Iran, begin a 60-day negotiation process, and resume traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Pakistan, which has taken the lead in mediating peace talks, will host the signing in Switzerland.
Antonia Tovar last spoke to her partner of almost 4 decades at 5:30 in the afternoon in late March. Over the video app Zoom, Jose Guadalupe Ramos told her he'd call back a few hours later. Instead, at 9:30 p.m, he was pronounced dead. The headline strapped across the front page of the Israeli news site Haaretz on Tuesday summed up the feelings of many. The Iran fiasco is Netanyahu's biggest failure since October 7. After 3.5 months of a stuttering war with Iran, Israel's foremost ally, the United States, has brokered an interim agreement without, it appears, any input from Israel.